Hello, I'm Thomas Fox with Alterna Jars. We're going over the anatomy of the jar, the blender jar, which in this case fits on the Blendtec blender. This is the blade assembly with the gear piece and the blade. In the middle is the housing with a thread, a housing thread for the blade assembly. And this is the bolt to the shaft. And then there is a top gasket, a seal, a shaft seal right here, as you can see. Okay, oops, with one hand a little hard. And then there is another gasket that sits against the jar on the inside, as you can see that. Okay, that gasket here. And then this is the thread. So then this is the jar with the bottom hole where the blade is being inserted from the inside of the jar to the outside, where the gear then will stick out, be screwed on with the bottom plate that I have here in my finger, and this is the lid that sits on top of the jar. So we're going to assemble this, not that you have to do it, but sometimes you may. There's a wrench that comes with it. This is what it looks like. So let me put the lid aside and the wrench, and let me just explain. Here's something that looks like a wagon wheel that protrudes out a little bit from the surface of the outside of the bottom of the jar. It looks like a wagon wheel because it has these spokes, and they're raised by about 1 millimeter, 1.5 millimeter away from the surface. Here is the stem that comes from the factory, from the production, which sticks out about this much normally, and we cut it back. This is just one of the things. We do that manually. Some sophisticated companies, they have it automatically taken care of. Good for them. Anyways, so that's that. So we insert the blade assembly, and this is really important that you pay close attention, because the blade assembly needs to sit very straight in there and be tightened with the bottom plate, and there's a gasket here. So I'm right-handed. I put this in with my left hand and I stick my hand in there. We go back here a little bit, and sometimes it's a little hard to get that on straight. It has to be completely straight on there so it can be properly tightened, because let's see here. Now I think I got it to bite. Yep, and then you gotta make sure it's a little loose as you tighten it carefully. I hope that makes sense. So it goes a few rounds. So you tighten it, pre-tighten it by hand. And you take, I set it usually on the table, but you may have to pull it apart. And I think this is done. A little bit more. Don't over tighten it, because you're gonna ruin it otherwise. So this is good. You didn't see my face, of course, doing, but it's not that hard. It's not that difficult. Anyways, the most important thing is that it sits tight, and then you can tell that it sits on straight. If that little stem that I showed you in between the spokes of the wagon wheel that is raised up a little bit sticks out too far, then it can't be tightened properly. And we're trying to catch those things, of course, in production and assembly. And I apologize if we don't get it. If it sticks out by 3 or 4 millimeters, it's too far. If it sticks out by 2 millimeters or 1.5 millimeter, it's still fine, because the gasket of the bottom plate gives a little room, about 1 millimeter, once it's tightened, so there is still a little space that you can work with tightening the bottom plate. If the bottom plate isn't straight on, or you don't screw it on straight, what happens is I need to show you that really. I don't know if I can fake it. Well, if the bottom plate isn't all the way straight, I need to make sure that this doesn't fall on the floor. So this is how you unscrew it. You take this off. Take this off. Put my thingy away here. The wrench, I mean. Okay, so if this is not on, let me try to not put it on straight or put it on. Well, now I can't do it. You know, when you want to do something wrong, you can't. Isn't that funny? But when you want to do something right, you can't do it right. Okay, now I got it on crooked. So what happens, if you can see here, okay, and it's possible, people think it is, but you can do always a water test, because you're gonna see on the inside, you know, this is going like that, and that's not right, and that doesn't turn anymore. So you have to unscrew it. I don't know. I mean, that is probably also difficult to accomplish. Anyways, you just got to make sure that it's tightened appropriately, properly, and if it is not tightened properly, to use the wrench to tighten, I think it still might be possible, but now it's tightened properly. It's seated properly, I should say, and it will tighten properly if it's seated correctly. So, all right, that's basically it. That's what I wanted to go over with you. Just make sure that's done correctly, and then the lid goes on top of it. You can put that on there. You should. And I forgot one thing. The tamper. Oh, I don't have a tamper here. Well, anyways, another time. So thank you very much for watching. Wanted to go over that, how to tighten, how to take out a blade assembly, and how to put it back in, and have fun with it. It's not really necessary that you do that, not even for cleaning purposes, maybe once every 6 months, depending on the usage. So you can clean in between the blades. If you want to sharpen the blade, the knife, you can do that too by taking it out, but always make sure that you tighten it properly back in there, because if it unscrews itself during blending, it's because it wasn't tightened enough, and I'm not to be blamed on that, because we really try the best. If that stem doesn't protrude out too far because we may have overlooked it in assembly, well, during inspection before we ship it out, we should catch it. But if anything goes wrong, because we do sell thousands of those, and then I guess it's possible to overlook it, and I apologize in advance, and we'll fix it. Anyway, but if that's not the problem, then sorry to say that the problem is that the bottom plate has been unscrewed by somebody in your family or in your household or in your business, and not been put back together tightly enough or not straight. There's nothing else that I can say about that. So have a wonderful day, and feel free to call us, contact us by email or by phone. Thank you. Have a nice day. Goodbye.